The Supersport 950 is available in two variations, the standard bike which comes in at 12,995 and this S version which is 14,495, and this is the only one of the two that is available in this Arctic white silk finish. It is without doubt a stunning looking bike and the spec is equally as impressive, so let's take a look at what you get. This 937cc tester shredder twin motor is used across both models obviously, and it also has exactly the same spec and outputs. This motor puts out 110 horsepower and 93 newton meters of torque, and I know there will be some people that will scrunch their nose up at those headline figures. But it's more than enough for the road, and the way it's delivered is deliciously smooth, but more on that later. The Supersport 950 weighs in at 184 kilos dry, and it has a very accessible 810mm seat height. The 6-axis IMU on this bike brings cornering traction control and cornering ABS as standard on both models, and the 3 available rider modes are easily changed using the very clear and functional TFT screen. The small windscreen is 2-position adjustable, and it's very easy to do with one hand, and it does work well too. Ducati's DQS quickshifter is standard too, and it's an absolute joy to use. Very slick both up and down with a really nice bark of a blip on downshifts. The big difference in the S model though comes predominantly from the suspension. Fully adjustable Ohlins 48mm upside down forks on the front. Match this with a progressive linkage mounted shock at the rear and you do get a true magic carpet ride. It's plush enough to be comfortable on UK tarmac roads, which let's face it are not the best out there, but it's firm enough still to be very precise, offer predictable control, good feel and very good feedback. My first ride on this bike was a 2.5-hour journey back from Ducati headquarters to home across loads of different types of roads, and I have to say this suspension absolutely blew me away. The Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3 tyres have been sticky in pretty much all of the conditions that I've ridden the bike in, and these Brembo M432 brakes are phenomenal, and they will literally suck your eyes out when you pull that lever in anger. So essentially the £1,500 price difference between the standard model and the S model gets you this gorgeous Ohlins suspension. You also get a colour-coded seat cowl, and you can choose this Arctic white silk paint job. But I would say if your wallet can stretch to it, the extra spend is definitely worth it. The 16-litre tank capacity isn't bad. I did include this bike in my 2021 Sports Tour roundup because I think if you include the clip-on hard panniers and maybe heated grips, this will make for a really comfortable and fun to ride long distance tourer. I'll leave a link to that video up in the top corner. Before we get onto the riding, I do want to mention the quality of the fit and finish. The more you look at it, the more the quality of this bike shines through, whether it's the controls on the handlebars, the levers, the foot pegs, the hangers for those foot pegs, everything is done really, really well. The quick shifter alone is a work of art, but the important thing is, what is it actually like to ride? Well, there's quite a few words that I would use when riding this bike. Friendly is one of them, but also fast, calm, stable, and above all, neutral. Now, whilst I'm out on the bike, one of the things I did want to talk about was ergonomics. And this is coming from the point of view of a middle-aged man who's overweight and unfit, and I have to say I found this comfortable. The riding position is good. It's a broad, wide seat, a nice amount of cushioning on that. You can spend hours at a time on this and not really feel it. And also the leg position is relatively open as well for this type of bike. I don't feel cramped. My legs are not really that much more bent than they are on my 790 Adventure, if I'm being honest. And the bars being that little bit higher, you can see there's a rise on the clip-ons here on the top, so they're mounted on the top of the fork stems, on top of the yoke, rather than being down here. They're in a much more comfortable position. And I have to admit, I thought it was going to be a bit of an achy ride home on the way back from Ducati, but I took a cross-country route with a lot of different styles of road, and it was fine, no problems whatsoever. But it's still a thrilling bike to ride. I know it's only got 110 horsepower, and as I said before, some people are going to scrunch their nose up and go, ah, well, that's not enough. Believe me, for UK roads, It's more than enough, and wind this bike on for overtakes and you're getting into 3 figures pretty damn quickly. But it does it all with smoothness, so it's punchy but it's not aggressive. Now I do notice a little bit of vibration from 937 Tesla Stretto motor, not very much. Generally it's pretty smooth. It makes a great noise, particularly on the quick shifter. Nice blip on the downshifts. There's a crackle and a pop on the overrun as well. I'll see if I can get it to do that. Might not be able to hear that, but it's a nice pop, 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 pop. So the engine is flexible. When you get on it, it's very responsive, but pootling through town and low speed elements is quite happy. The fueling feels good on the throttle. There's no snatchiness. It is just genuinely a really enjoyable bike to ride. Obviously I have to look for negatives, but they are few and far between. The mirrors, not a bad vision from those, but once you get to, what am I doing, 50 miles an hour now, I can't really see very much out of them. They do vibrate a lot. At the end of the drawback is this is white paint is fantastic, and that smooth shark-like nose looks beautiful, but I think it might become over time a bit of a stone chip magnet. But other than that, I'm struggling to find anything really negative to say about it. It looks fantastic, it rides fantastic. It's a beautiful thing. I'm quite smitten. Obviously there are some limitations on a bike like this. You're not going to go off-roading in it, but for touring and getting around, I think it's much more friendly than some of the other sports bike alternatives. Whether you're bimbling through town or pushing on a little bit more on the twisty roads, or indeed munching motorway miles, it's comfortable, it's quick, it's beautiful to look at. You do get people paying you compliments. I stopped to change my sat nav on a little village on the way back home from Silverstone, and an old boy walking past just said, "Nice bike, mate." And if you want to get on it, it will shift as well. Don't let that 110 horsepower number put you off. And as I said in the spiel, everything is just really composed. The combination of the tyres, the suspension and the brakes just means the bike feels incredibly planted, incredibly secure. You know exactly what's going on at the front end. Lots of feedback. And obviously you're going to sacrifice a little bit of sharpness because this is set up for the road. As somebody like me that doesn't come from a background of sports bikes, this still offers a really thrilling ride. If you've been thinking about one and haven't got round to it, then I would definitely recommend finding your nearest Ducati dealership and taking one of these beauties out. I dare you not to enjoy it. I love that popping of the exhaust. I don't know if you can pick that up. if you're the kind of rider that just craves more power, then the Panigale V2 with 153 horsepower or the V4s are going to be more up your street. But for me, that power does come somewhat at the expense of comfort. If, like me, you like the idea of a sports bike but don't want edge of a knife handling, thin race replica seats, low bars, cramped legs and everything that comes associated with those, then this might just be the answer. It's beautiful, it's well made, it's relatively practical and it's easy to ride. There are cheaper bikes out there, of course, that will do the same thing, but maybe they won't tug at your heartstrings as much as the Ducati Supersport 950 will. So I hope you found this video useful and or interesting, and if you've got any questions, you know where to leave those in the comment section down below. I've got a few more bike reviews coming up. The Norden 901 is next, followed by the Suzuki GSX 1000 GT. So if you want to see those, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll get notified when the new videos launch. And until then, I'd just like to say thanks for watching. Take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.